general age, the way you know anyone's birthday is or anniversary is Facebook. When a spouse wishes another spouse happy anniversary on Facebook, which is always weird to me because I'm like, don't you fuckers live together? Like, why are you messaging them on Facebook? Like, can't you just go talk to them like a human?
Maybe
really
they're in a. Maybe the reason why they're able to stay together is because they don't live together. Maybe if they live together, all of a sudden they'd be looking for some form of separation agreement.
Shane, there's your answer right there.
Yeah,
there's your answer. You can't ask your Tinder date to move in on your first or second date. You actually have to live apart for a little bit, and that allows them to, kind of get used to you and not also be freaked out. So we needed to add this to Shane's dating book of life right there.
My Tinder profile. I promise I'll stop asking people to move in after the first date.
Currently, from my knowledge, and again, I don't know exactly, but from my knowledge of what we gathered on the show, right? Shane's Tinder profile would say something to the effect of first name Shane, last name is the worst. Job, something to do with housing, place of residence, child's bedroom.
Oh God.
I don't think I'd want to put that on a Tinder profile. I am not good at dating, but I think that would be a very creepy one. The last one.
I think so.
President's child's bedroom.
What is your go-to thing that you say on a date, Shaner?
I don't. I've given up on dating. I don't even want to
given up on dating.
Anymore.
I'm gonna take over as your Chase and I are gonna meet you at the expo. And we're gonna play Have You Met Shane? and we're gonna find you love.
I don't want love. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I just want to climb in and out and then ask them to leave, or I can leave. I don't care. Like I don't have it in me. Like I tried to get to know people, and I'm like, oh, this is exhausting. Like. No, I don't want to have to pretend to like you or be interested in your boring ass stories about your horrible ass friends. Like I can't do it.
And with that being said,
this is Fantasy Intervention. Intervene with your fantasy life, Shane Manila, Jakob Sanderson, and Chase Vernon.
Everybody, welcome to Fantasy Intervention. Coming at you hot and heavy so far, discussing Shane's dating life prior to the show. Fun things with that. But yes, the more important thing that we have to bring you guys is our special guest. We have Pat Fitzmaurice in the house. What's going on? How you doing?
Chase, thank you so much for having me. Great to join you and Shane and Jakob. It's going to be a fun show, man. Been looking forward to talking to you guys all day.
It's going to be interesting to say the least, and of course, you guys can go find you guys can go find Pat Fitzmaurice over there at Fitz on Fantasy. So let's go ahead and break this down. Jakob, is something happening over there with you right now?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Is something happening?
Is there a fire alarm or something? Are you being asked to evacuate the building?
There we go. God, that was tough to talk through in an intro.
Is something happening? I don't hear anything.
Yeah, there's something. I think they were asking you to leave the building.
I legitimately don't hear anything. It is possible. For those that are not aware listening, this is not my usual blank wall of my apartment that I can't hang things up on without bearing the fear of the landlord. So I'm coming to you live from downtown Eastside Vancouver, my work office. I have Michaela over here. Who told me to not dare put her on the stream live. She's currently making animals out of some sort of felt object. This is a bunny that she just made.
Where do you guys work at? Preschool?
No, we work at a legal clinic, Shane.
Okay, I'm just curious.
The finest legal minds in Canada, which you guys I'm sure will have opinions on. Yeah, exactly. It's bird law.
Oh, God, knock back to bird law again. All right, we're going to avoid that. We're going to go ahead and let you guys know that, yes, this is a fantasy football show, believe it or not. And we will be discussing the free agent class when it comes to the tiers of players we're expecting to hit free agency, along with some players who might need some new scenery versus some players that should stay, and, of course, some sophomore potential breakouts. So we're going to start it out with the elite tier. And, obviously we have Devonta Adams, which we'll go into here in a second. I want to, get y'all's take on whether he stays, goes, what the potential outlook of that is. But I want to start it out with Chris Godwin first. And Pat, I want to ask you in particular, are you somebody that thinks that Chris Godwin should still be in an elite tier, at least remain as one of the top 10 wide receivers for dynasty purposes? Or are you ready to move on from Chris Godwin now that Tom Brady's gone? He could end up with a different team. Are you a little bit nervous with everything going on post-injury? What are your thoughts on Chris Godwin?
So, I consider myself pretty pro Godwin, but I do have him just outside the top 10. I think I've got him either wide receiver at 13 or 14. And part of it is the ACL. We don't know if we're going to get the full season from him next year. Probably. I mean, counting guys out seems like a bad bet these days as far as injury recover. We saw
unless it's Will and it's a finger injury.
Yeah, exactly.
Never play football again.
But these guys recover from this stuff so quickly. So hopefully he's going to be back by week 1. But I don't know. I kind of thought he had the perfect storm with Tom Brady this past year. Brady did not want to get hit this past year. And it was kind of obvious all season. And just dumping these quick passes to Fournette and Godwin, not really standing back there doing 5-step drops and looking for guys 30 or 40 yards downfield. He wanted to get the ball out fast. And Godwin just his style played right into that. We don't know where he's going to be. So overall, I still feel like I'm bullish, but I don't have him in the top 10 anymore. Near elite, but maybe not quite elite.
I have a hot take on Goblin in the opposite direction. So I put out my tiered and clustered dynasty rankings the other day, and Chris Godwin was not in my top 20 dynasty wide receivers. From 2019 through 2021, the Bucs threw for over 15,000 passing yards. They threw for 791 more pass yards than any other team in the entire NFL. They averaged 2 more pass attempts, 1.98, if you want to be precise, than any other team over the past 3 years. Look, Chris Godwin's per route, per play numbers have just not been there, even during this period where he's been a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 in fantasy. His Whopper last year, which is weighted opportunity rating, was all the way down at 0.457. What we're seeing out of most of the elite wide receiver 1s in the NFL is in the high 0.6s, low 0.7s, and we're seeing, in the 0.5 to 0.6 range for these wide receiver 2s. Godwin's only seeing about a 20% target share. He's only seeing about 20% air yard share. But because the pie is so large in Tampa Bay, it has been the last 3 years, and because the offense is so efficient, he's able to predictably outperform his usage, Chris Godwin is. And a lot of this applies to Mike Evans as well. I do have concerns that if they have freaking Blaine Gabbert as their quarterback next year, if he stays, or if he ends up going somewhere else to a fairly average offense, that he's just not going to be able to sustain this without really juicing up his own individual market shares. And his career high in target share, even in that best year ever, is 22%. So I'm quite low on Godwin in Dynasty. He's someone that I'm looking to sell in Dynasty at what his market value is, which I think is wide receiver 13 right now. But certainly I understand the talent. He's one of the best zone beaters in the league. He's a great yak player, great football player. But with the injury and with his individual rate stats, I'm out. And Husker/Husker. Yes, I'm coming to you live from a law office. So absolutely, I look like a lawyer. Thanks. But I have my floral shirt. So I'm trying to let you know that, corporate law has certainly not sucked up the personality. We're only defending the best and the brightest down here.
All right. So let me propose this real quick, because Chris Godwin, when it comes to his air yard share and all that other stuff, which obviously he plays out of the slot, he's not going to see a tremendous amount. But he is able to capitalize on the looks that he gets, and he's able to do things with the ball in his hands. Meanwhile, yes.
Sorry. So that was more of a function of Tom Brady, though, because when he had Jameis back in 2019 and Jameis was YOLOing, He set career highs in yards per reception and yards per catch. And I know they're not advanced metrics,
Well,
but they
that's
just
what I was
happen to
about to
be.
bring up.
Oh, well, I wanted to cut you off, so I look smarter. I
Yeah.
stole that off of you.
That makes sense. I was gonna go to you with this take. So no, but we have Jameis Winston pretty much taking one of his best overall seasons, right? Because he did increase that, and Tom Brady likes throwing short. We saw the same thing with Julian Edelman. We saw the same thing with like Wes Welk or whoever was in that slot. So Shane, do you think that Chris Godwin can actually increase those numbers? And what's your take on that?
Yes, but not with Blaine Gabbert or Kyle Trask. So I get Jacob's trepidation because we can't just pencil in Aaron Rodgers landing there, right? Because apparently he likes Green Bay again. We can't just pencil in Jameis Winston because if I was Jameis Winston, I would tell Bruce Arians to suck my nut if he tried to get me to come back there the way he treated me. It's a disgrace, and Bruce Arians is a horrible head coach. What are we talking about?
God, here it goes again.
It's risk reward, right? So if I can get him for a moderate risk, yeah, I'll do it. He's one of the few players that I agree with his price. Like his startup price is like wide receiver 15, and I'm not like, oh, that's egregious either way. Yeah, Trubisky, no. Although Trubisky might actually, here's a hot take. Trubisky might actually be good at football.
Yeah,
it's just that Nagy was absolutely atrocious and horrible as a football mind.
He could be one of the league's best backups.
That's why they booed his kids, which is a little over the line, but I understand it. He's one of those players right now. He's definitely not in the elite tier. You know what I mean? I'm not going to look at he's not anyone that if I have Jamar Jefferson or Jamar Chase. Like I'm not going to.
I too think that Lions 7th round running back Jamar Jefferson belongs in the elite tier.
I'm not going to try to pivot down from like Justin Jefferson to Chris Godwin for like a singular first. Like that's not going to do the trick. I'm going to need a little more. But if somebody likes DJ more than I like Chris Godwin, and they want to give me a little bit on top, we could talk.
All right, so. I like that Chris Godwin take. Let's go ahead and move on to the actual elite free agent wide receiver in this class, and that's going to be Devonta Adams. And I want to get y'all's take on whether he stays, whether he goes. Is he going to be in a better situation than what he was, in? Obviously, probably not with Green Bay, but is there a chance? Is there anything that we could hope that we see the same Devonta Adams somewhere else or in Green Bay that we've seen in the past without Aaron Rodgers? And we'll start out with Pat once again.
So, I'm hoping they can find a way to go back to him in Green Bay. I'm a Packers guy. I'm a Wisconsin guy. So, but we're like $50 million over the cap. So we're kind of in hell there. And like, I'm worried.
The salary cap is a myth.
I hope you're right about that, Jacob. Because like, there's a dude I follow on Twitter, like this small account, but he is like an accountant or something. And he's like a Packers cap specialist. And he's like, nah, I don't think they're going to even bother tagging him. Like, they wouldn't be able to do it. So these reports that they're going to try to find money to keep Rodgers happy and bring Adams back. Like, I don't know how they're going to do it. Their capologist is going to have to, perform miracles to do it. But obviously, like, it would be great if he comes back. I think he's the wide receiver 2 for redraft. If he does, still a top 5 dynasty guy.
Is that with or without Rodgers there?
What's that?
Is that with or without Rodgers being there?
Oh, God, that's got to be with Rodgers.
What if it's love?
No.
I was going to say, well.
Yeah.
All you need is love.
Like, it could not be Rodgers, but it can't definitely be love. Like, love is just a death knell to him. And just answer your one question. Yeah, there's nowhere he could go that would be better unless Aaron Rodgers is there. I was just looking at his target share since 2017. I think the lowest he's seen was 24%. That was once. And the second lowest was 29%. Like, I don't know where else he's going to go that he would ever see that target share.
Yeah. And the worst thing that can happen if you're an Adams stakeholder is that if they tag him and Rodgers like walks or like gets traded or retires then you're screwed.
Shane, have you considered that targets are earned?
I always consider that targets are earned. And Devonta Adams will see 190 targets with Jordan Love, and 14% of them will be catchable.
Shane, when it comes to, whether like we say Aaron Rodgers goes to Denver, right, and they retain all the weapons that they have, is there any chance in hell that if hypothetically Devonta Adams also ends up in Denver, that he's going to see a drop in, the target percentage when he has to compete with Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, or are they going to be like pretty much Tampa Bay where it's just going to be insanely efficient? Like, what are your feelings on that with Devonta Adams?
So Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton can't
Tim
beat
Patrick.
each other out. Who can't, and neither of them can beat Tim Patrick out. So if Devonta Adams goes there, they're just his bitch. Like they're going to see a 15% target share, and they'll like it. And Adams will see, it won't be 31%. Like that's ridiculous, but he'll see 25%. He'll see 25% because he's an Alfie, unlike those two. They're definitely betas.
Yeah, I mean, I'm stealing this from Ship Chasing, but like Devonta Adams is the one who knocks, right? Like he is the danger. So wherever he goes, he's the best wide receiver in the National Football League. He's the best wide receiver on the planet of Earth. Like a 25% target share travels with him. Anything above that is gravy. But his like absolute floor, no matter where he goes, no matter who else is there, in my opinion, is a 25% target share. And then, maybe it gets up to 30 if he's in a spot. Like if he ends up in like Vegas, right, then I can still see him getting to 30 because like he's got to split with Waller. Okay. He's got to split with little mini me, Hunter Renfrow. All right, whatever. But there's nobody else. I think Denver's a tighter spot, but certainly he's going to see targets wherever he goes. I'm going to end up, I'm like cautious on Adams right now, just because I think there's a pretty decent chance he doesn't end up with Rodgers, and I think his value could go down. So I would rather take some of these younger guys that have, I think, more insulated value in a startup, like a Deontay Johnson, a T. Higgins, a Jalen Waddle. But I'm pretty certain that if Adams does go somewhere without Rodgers and his value does drop off into like the late teens or something in Dynasty, because he's going to be, 29, 30 years old, at that point I'll be buying because I really do believe in the player.
Well, let's hop on to our next tier down here. And, we're talking about Allen Robinson. Pat, is Allen Robinson just gone at this point? Is he dust? Is he somebody you should forget about moving forward? I mean, he is going to be a free agent. Maybe he ends up with a team that knows how to call plays and to get him involved in the game plan. Or maybe he was just, maybe he's just dust. What do you think?
Going back to the Matt Nagy thing for a minute. And by the way, when Shane mentioned the booing of his kid, like one of my best friend's sons is best friends with Nagy's kid in Lake Forest, Illinois. So
did he boo him too?
No. The friend's son was telling me about that. And he's, he said this Nagy's kid is pretty low key. So he took it all in stride. And, my friend's kid was telling me that if it was him, he'd be in like fights every day at school because there are always kids getting on his case. But anyway, Allen Robinson seems to I saw something the other day where someone posted something on social media, like the theory that Nagy was trying to marginalize Allen Robinson, and Allen Robinson like responded to this Instagram post or whatever it was with 154, 151, 66. Like that sequence of numbers, and that's his target totals over the last 3 years. So like he seems to believe it. I don't know, man. It's just weird that this dude was absolutely quarterback proof for most of his career. 1,400 yards and 14 TDs with Blake Bortles. Productive years with Mitch Trubisky. And then couldn't make it work this year. And like, I mean, I don't know, maybe he was pissed about being tagged and just checked out. Had COVID, had some injuries, but I'm not giving up, man. Like, I think he's still a decent player.
Jacob's over there with being the anti-ageist, buying a ton of veterans, at their cost, including Odell Beckham, which unfortunately didn't work out for him on that one. But Allen Robinson, Jacob, is he somebody that you might want to invest in because the price is going so low?
Didn't work out. Odell was extremely useful down the stretch. He's probably going to re-sign back with the Rams. What's wrong with Odell? He was elite all playoffs. He got a ring. We love Odell Beckham. What's wrong with Odell? Hater.
What about Allen Robinson?
Allen Robinson I'm less into because he stopped being good at football. I like vets that are good at football.
Odell was just as bad over there in Cleveland.
No, Odell was great because I look at the right details. Odell still earned targets. He never stopped earning targets. Baker is an absolute disaster. But Odell was still earning like 23% of the targets in Cleveland. He was still getting open. He was still separating. When you looked at his win rates versus coverage, he was still consistently separating versus man coverage. And, I don't think Odell's the same player, certainly, that he was in his heyday in the Giants, but I think he was still a really good NFL receiver. With Allen Robinson, it's tough. Like, I think there's some people out there that just think, oh, the Bears were such a disaster. You know, they ruined Allen Robinson. Like, I don't think that's the case. Like, Mooney was earning 27% of the targets. He was doing just fine. You know, like if Robinson's production was just muted, but he was still getting the usage, I'd be all about him. He was legitimate ass last year. Like, he just wasn't good. He wasn't getting targets. He wasn't playing well. His PFF grades have been over 80, like virtually every year of his career. He was down at 66 this past year. So that being said, what I'm not 100% certain about is, was Allen Robinson terrible by choice or by ability? Like, I think it's possible that Robinson, you know, was pretty checked out because he was mad about being tagged and he didn't like a situation and he just didn't have investment in the team, right? And I think it's totally possible that he was half-assing it most of last year. We're going to end up on a new team and he's going to start playing well again. I think that's doable. So I'm open-minded to buying Robinson. My issue is that I don't think that he's that much cheaper than similarly valued vets who actually are still playing at a high level. Like, so to me, I'd still rather have Tyler Lockett and Brandon Cooks, who are going in similar spots than Allen Robinson and startups, are similar ages, but we haven't actually seen a drop off in their play. I don't have to absorb the risk that he actually just isn't good anymore, because I think it's possible. Like, he wasn't good last year. Maybe it was by choice, but like, he also might have just really declined.
Yeah, it's very real. And Shane over there is probably the biggest ageist among the three of us. So is Allen Robinson.
I'll have you know that that's incorrect, because I know what's that stats and wide receivers that are elite will produce through their age 32 season. I just know that you can't get the value for them to trade for that, because everyone assumes after 25 you immediately die, much like regular society treats people my age. Fantasy football treats people at the age of 30.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, you actually work it out from experience, you know, like you've pretty much died and fallen off the cliff. So you treat Allen Robinson the same way.
It's cost. I'm just going through the DLF trade finder, right? And there's ones where someone traded Allen Robinson in the first for AJ Brown. Like, if I was that AJ Brown owner, yeah, I know. I'm like, I'll take AJ Brown all day. Like, you're getting for a first and a dude, sure. But then I also see
that better be the 101,
right? And then I see another trade where he's given up for Irv Smith. Another trade where he's given up for KJ Hamler and rookie picks. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, if I'll give up a second round rookie pick in this draft class every day of the week for him. Like, I'll give you several if you'd like, even if you'd like the 205, the 27, the 212, just stack those second rounders, all yours. Get all those late round studs. I'm not going to give up a first for him because, one, I don't want to get made fun of. And
Pat, you don't want to embrace the wrath that Kyle Yates got when he posted about him.
Yeah. I was wondering if that was going to come up.
I didn't even think of it until it came out, but
I missed that one. I missed it. I missed the.
It was like a year ago, dude.
Oh.
You got to stay current on the Twitters, dude. Moves. It's a quick news cycle. Man. It's not even like 24 hours. It's like something happened 4 hours ago. That's like, it's gone. It doesn't even matter.
Well, you guys just brought up something that happened a year ago, so. No,
well, we have long memories. Yeah, we just remember things.
Pat, like, where's the line for you? Like, where are you looking to, or if you had Allen Robinson, what would you let him go for? Let's say, 2022 draft picks.
Yeah, I was trying to calibrate that in terms of draft, like maybe an early seconds.
2-3 is my dividing line. I would rather have 2-3 than A-Rob, and I'd rather have A-Rob than 2-4. That's right.
So you're thinking that you're going to trade that 203, though, right? There's no way.
No, I want to pick a player.
Have you done mock drafts?
Yeah, I like the wide receivers at the late first, early second quite a bit. I think it depends a little bit on how many quarterbacks end up actually going in the first, because any quarterback that goes round one is worth a pick, or at the very least, other people will pick them and they'll push wide receivers down to you. But like, I think depending on where they get drafted, and it really does depend on the draft capital. But like guys like George Pickens and David Bell and Wan'Dale Robinson, like any of these guys that get day 2 cap, like I'm going to be pretty interested sitting at the 2-1, 2-2, 2-3 on some of these guys. Yeah, absolutely.
I do think that Shane is pretty much thinking of just single quarterback leagues, since that's all he plays anymore. It's just single quarterback leagues.
Yeah. Okay. So I know you're making fun of Shane, but this is actually a great point. When I say 203, I very, very much mean super flex. Like to me, the 203 and super flex is essentially like the 112 in single quarterback. So, once we get past that tier of like day 2 capital, good production profile wide receivers, then we're just like, I don't know, play some fucking roulette, right? Like, I don't really care at that point.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to these three guys, and the three guys in the same area. So we're just gonna do a Mary fuck kill over here. Keep it a little short. Let's do Gallup, Chark,
Fuck
and
Shane.
Fuller. Shane's starting out. Shane, you just got fucked by Jacob, so you're starting it out. Gallup, Chark, and Fuller.
Oh fuck. Fuck.
Wait,
I'm
which
cutting
one?
Fuller. I'm done.
Cutting Fuller.
Yeah, I'll marry Gallup because I think he's younger than Chark. I'll fuck Chark. No, Chark's younger. God. All right. Well, I've seen more bad. So I'll fuck Chark though, because he looks like he'll give you like at least a good time for a little bit. Like I don't think it'll last, but it'll be fun while it does.
He's so tough because he was actually only productive for like 6 games in his big year that he had in 2019, I believe. It was 6 games that he was productive, and then once they figured him out, he's in trouble. He just got in trouble by his boss. No,
I explained to my boss that I'm recording a fantasy football podcast in the office, and I'm sure he has about 7 more questions, but I'll answer those tomorrow.
So I mean, he was
Such
only
as
good
what
in
is
6
fantasy
games
football
in 2019. So I mean, Gallup's at least shown consistency to an extent, but Jacob.
Look, Fuller's the only guy that has upside out of these 3, to be honest with you. But the fact that he didn't play at all last year, I don't even remember if he played. Like at one point, he was going to be out for a game,
2 games or a game and a half.
Then he was going to retire, but then he came back. Like if I knew Fuller was actually going to play even 9 games next year, I'd say Fuller.
Yeah, I mean Fuller has never played and not been good. The issue is that he often doesn't play, right? And so I'm gonna
legal drugs.
Yeah, I'm going to do the thing with Will Fuller because, if you think about a person who really, really always performs when he's out there, but you just can't rely on him, and plus it seems like he has some interesting instruments attached to that finger right now, and you never know how that can be used. So I think he's going to be the first category for me. I'm definitely marrying Michael Gallup because he's just a nice, sturdy, reliable receiver. You post him up on the outside, you throw it to him near the end zone, about a nice 20% target share. He's that reliable first down getter. That's what you need if you're committing to a marriage. And then, Chark, unfortunately, I guess I have to kill Chark. He had the one good year, but he was a bad prospect. He did nothing in his rookie year. He was bad in his 3rd year. He was injured this year. Basically all we have is that year 2. And he earned like 22% of the targets on a terrible team. And he caught a lot of touchdowns and long passes. So ultimately, it's going to be a pass for me on DJ Shark week.
All right, Pat, what you got, man?
I'm going to marry Shark. Like, still just going to be 26 in September. Like, I think he's pretty good, man. And I think he can grow with Trevor Lawrence. So fuck his Gallup, who, I think he passes the eye test, but like I just can't stay with a vertical receiver who isn't actually fast. And kill, it's got to be Fuller. Like Jacob saying he's always good when he's healthy. Is he? Has he really had a good season other than 2020? Like even if we're doing on a per game basis, I don't know, man. So
he has.
That last year,
he lives at like a 23% target share. Okay, he's always getting like. I understand like this is the nerd zone with Fuller and it's the spin zone, but on a per game basis, he's pretty darn good. Like he's usually hitting 14 plus points per game. Now it's volatile because one game he'll have 2 and the next game he'll have 3. But like in terms of if we're looking at his points per game basis, if you're putting him in the flex every week, like he's usually getting 14 plus points per game. He's usually earning targets at about a 23% rate. He's always earning targets down the field. Like he continually pops in a good way, and he's done that pretty much every year. But his 2nd year, I think, in the league, it's just he is always injured and he is always volatile, right? So you're playing for those large games, and I understand like if we have Bob Lung on here, he's going to talk, how bad Fuller is in the consistency score. Right? Myself, I don't really value consistency because to me, I look at it like a barbell strategy, right? It's like you either want, I don't know if anyone knows this. Does anyone here read Taleb?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, Shane, it's true. Right. So he talks about like the barbell investing strategy, where it's like the safest investment strategy pools are either like a pool of all risky assets or a pool of all safe assets, right? And so to me, it's like if you have a lot of players that have a high variance range, like a Fuller, then the points per game is actually a pretty accurate reflection of your median expectation. Because if you have a bunch of guys who might get 40, might get 2 with wide ranges, it's going to balance out, but where it hits you is if you're a fairly risk averse player and then you just stick Fuller in the flex, it's like, it's going to feel like he's winning or losing you every week. And so I do think you have to have a certain risk appetite to embrace William Fuller 5 sticks. But
you're going to have a lot of the highest scores and a lot of the lowest scores. So go ahead, Pat.
I was just going to say I was relieved that Jakob veered away from Bob Lung and into Taleb, because if he bashed Bob Lung, he's going to be finding himself sleeping next to a dumpster outside the DoubleTree camp.
I would never, ever, ever bash Bob Lung. Look, we had Bob Lung on the show last year, and his perspective on the value of consistency is certainly different than mine. But I love everything that he puts out. It's super, super valuable, and everything he does with the Expo is one of one. So
and also, I mean, like Jakob brought up, if you're somebody that plays safe all the time and you want consistency in your lineups, I'm one of those players personally, then that's somebody that you're going to end up falling in line with. So I was about to say I was sitting there and looking at it earlier, and I'm going to say it anyways. I'm sitting there and looking at it earlier, and somebody brought up that they like Gallup out of the slot more. So I was like, Gallup, I don't think has ever played out of the slot. So I decided to go on to PFF and see how many receptions he's had out of the slot in his entire career. Do you guys want to take a guess at the number in the 4 years that Gallup's played in the league? How many receptions?
I'm going to guess literally 0.
You're saying it's such a disdainful way that it's more than 0, but definitely a lot less than a lot. So I don't know, 37.
Yeah, 25.
It was 7 and 0 over the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Wow. So.
Well, I mean, that doesn't mean he wasn't running
running
routes out of the slot. That just means he wasn't.
No, there was literally almost no routes out of the slot. I want to say he ran 35 routes.
He is an immovable object. He plays X. People think Cooper plays
on the left side. On the left side,
but he lines up specifically at X. Cooper plays flanker. Lamb plays slot, and then if on occasion Gallup is subbing out of a 3 wide receiver set, then Lamb can sub in and play X, or Cooper can play X. But Gallup is the immovable object in that offense. He plays it's kind of like the Sammy Watkins role in the old KC offense when Sammy was there, where it's they do fun things with Tyreek and McCole and everybody else, but Sammy's just there to run dig routes from X over and over again.
All right, so that was supposed to be our quick segment or quick part of that, but obviously that never happens with us.
Fly through.
All right, does Juju make his way back to the Chiefs? Does he stick with the Steelers, or does he go with a different team other than that? We'll start it with Jakob because he just had a tantrum down there.
I'm just so sick of talking about this fucker. I'm just so sick of talking about Juju. He was the same case I was making about Chris Godwin, him in 2018. I mean, he had a good year, but he had, 24% of the targets on a low ADOT, and they threw it an NFL record amount of attempts. And he had Antonio Brown sucking up coverage, and so he ran a gazillion drag routes, and he got peppered with targets, and obviously he had a really solid season. I think he was the wide receiver 6 in points per game. Then everyone decided all of a sudden he's the dynasty wide receiver 1, like a bunch of hooligans. And he is what he is. I mean, the offense has really become kind of rancid in recent years. But you look at his chart on reception perception, and it's hilarious. He wins constantly on slants, on drags, and on little comebacks. And everything in the deep category is just red, 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 red. He's a zone-beating slot receiver. Yeah, if he ends up in the right spot, sure, he can be a top 36 guy. But he's just frankly not that good. He doesn't win deep, and he doesn't win against man coverage. And so he's a very limited player. And he rolled double 6s for 1 year, but he is not a complete wide receiver. And I think people still afford more upside to Juju than he has. I'll say this. I would rather have everybody you just named in the last section than Juju Smith-Schuster.
Oh my God! I would make that fucking trade with you every day of the week, and then I'd make fun of you.
Yeah, because I have Juju on.
I would call your house on a landline and talk to your parents, and we would make fun of you.
He had a landline ring in one episode, just for the record, Pat. That's not.
Oh, did he?
Oh, you don't remember that? So,
no, well, I'm calling his parents, so I just assumed.
No, Jakob has the.
No, my
benefit
parents
of
too have a
hindsight.
landline. I was staying in my parents' place that episode, and they have a landline.
Yep, I remember.
Juju,
So Jakob has the benefit of hindsight. He's not, like he probably would have ranked Juju Smith-Schuster as the dynasty wide receiver.
No,
At the time.
I
He was
have
old
been
enough to play
having
dynasty
fade Juju takes for eternity, and this is like my one war that I've won repeatedly. And every year, people try to take away my win, and they say buy low on Juju, and my answer is buy never on Juju.
I don't know. Look, the guy's 25. He's had wide receiver 16 season, wide receiver 9 season, down season as a wide receiver 24. I'm not even going to get into last year because he was hurt most of it. He was absolute ass chaps in 2019, and he had a ton of air yards in 2018. And he's actually run routes all over the field. Peter Howard, not I, because I wouldn't look at stuff like this, has looked at it, and they used him in different ways in different years. I will put all of it on Ben Roethlisberger. Now, I know Deontay Johnson was in the same situation, and Deontay Johnson smashed. So, yes. I personally am still buying on Juju, especially when – and Jakob isn't alone in his distaste for him, because there's a lot of people that really are tired. Like, you're tired of hearing talking about Juju. Like, we've talked about this kid since he was, an 18-year-old freshman. And, look, it feels like forever. He's still just 26. He's just turning 26. Like, he's just entering the prime of a wide receiver. Now, that said, if he ends up in Pittsburgh again, I give the fuck up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
If he's there again, I'm just like, dude, you're clearly either not that bright or not that good. And either one of those are not good for me. Because Deontay Johnson's going to be the target hog there for the rest of life. If he ends up in KC, great. I mean, second fiddle to Tyreek, perfect spot for him. If he ends up in, I don't know, Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts.
I can't wait until he comes to the Colts. And first of all, I have to be triggered because I've hated on Juju so much for the 3 years, and now I have to love him.
Are you getting a quarterback with
and
him?
then I have to watch. And then I have to watch maybe I don't even have to watch Wentz anymore. I don't know, but whoever we have is going to suck, and I have to watch him get airmailed. Also, how about this, Shane? My personal darkest timeline, the Colts signed Juju, which for the record, a lot of people hate Juju because he TikToks. I love Juju the person. I just don't think he's a very good wide receiver. I have no issue with him as a personality. But if they sign Juju and they sign Jimmy G, first of all, I'll be in my own personal hell. But Juju would have a fantastic time with Jimmy G because Jimmy G will target him relentlessly on 5-yard slants.
No.
God.
Don't you follow Twitter? They'll just use Juju like Debo. He'll be running back too, so it'll be fine.
Dude,
it'll be awesome.
They both wear 19. It's a perfect fit.
Oh my God! All right, Pat, can you actually answer the question since neither one of these guys?
What was the question?
Yeah, will he make it to the Chiefs?
Will he end up with the Steelers? Will he end up with a different team? And will his value increase or decline if he goes somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean, it totally depends. And I'd put the field bet over betting on the Chiefs. I mean, Juju already self-sabotaged once with that
so
Pittsburgh
crazy,
re-signing. So I've also heard
$8 million a year is what he took. That's crazy.
Unreal, man. And I've heard the Bears is an interested party this year. So don't love that fit. It really depends, man. I think he's going to be pretty landing spot sensitive.
All right, so let's hop on to Mike Williams.
Wait, you're going to pitch it to Shane, the landing spot correspondent? Sorry, Pat. That's an inside joke from draft season.
All right, so so Mike Williams, he makes a ton of sense with different teams, right? And while Gallup possibly with the Lions, maybe Chark with the Lions, Mike Williams with the Lions is a big turnoff. Meanwhile, I feel like Mike Williams with maybe Arizona, could be a good fit. So where would you guys like to see Mike Williams end up, including the Chargers? We'll start out with Shane up there. Where is his landing spot? Please tell us, landing spot correspondent.
I don't care. He's a wide receiver too. He's a back end wide receiver too.
You don't think he can get up to
no,
top end wide receiver?
Look,
too?
he climaxed last year, the first 3 weeks, and just spent. He was completely spent after that, and was
he in his kid's room while he did it?
I would hope not. He was completely spent after that. What do you call those people? Los Angeles Chargers, the San Diego Chargers, whatever the Chargers are. They tried using him as the wide receiver one on that team, and then immediately we're like, "This is a terrible idea. Let's not do this anymore." Hey, Mike, just run deep routes again. Just jump balls. All right, we tried it. We didn't like it. He's 28 years old. He's already old.
He's not that old, is he?
Yeah, he's 28. He's 27.3.
Oh, he's 27, but he's going to be 28 in season. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
such an old rookie. Yeah.
So yeah, because he came into the league at 27, because you know what I mean. He went to the 7-year Clemson plan. Like that's why Hunter Renfro's 36. You know, he went to Clemson from like the age of 14 to 32. Anywho, I don't care where he lands. Anywhere he lands, I hope it's good so I can trade him off my roster. That's all that matters. I'll sell the spike. I hope he lands in Kansas City. How about that? Kansas, can that be the spot everywhere? New England? How about New England? They need a deep threat. They need a jump ball specialist.
Do you like that value more than the Chargers?
No,
the Chargers is the best.
But if he moves, at least he gets the narrative of, oh, well, he's going to be the wide receiver one there. Well,
yeah, but he was.
Kansas City.
Wasn't he like actually technically a wide receiver one this year or something crazy? Like,
he was a wide receiver 13.
Okay, so close, pretty close.
Built off of an insane, very good first month.
Yeah,
I mean, Mike Williams. I'm a little annoyed at Mike Williams because I feel like I got teased. You know, I've been like anti Mike Williams for however many years.
So you got blue balls, you never climaxed.
And then I bought in a little bit early, and I admitted that I was dumb for doubting Mike Williams. And then he made me look dumb for undoubting Mike Williams when I should have just doubted Mike Williams all along. His target share was 20.8%, which is pretty darn lame. You know, like Will Fuller has several seasons with a higher target share than Mike Williams. Yeah, wherever he's going to be throwing himself into the air with no regard for human life, others, or his own, and he's going to fall down and he's going to injure himself or whatever. I think he's a useful real-life player. I think he's a great fit for the Chargers with Justin Herbert, who's a really good deep passer when his coach decides to let him be. And I hope that he stays there, and he'll probably be a back-end wide receiver too with some nice spike weeks if he does. And if he doesn't stay there, then I literally couldn't care less.
Pat, where do you have Mike Williams moving forward? Is he somebody that you might be trying to acquire at this point? Is there a landing spot that you'd like to see him in?
I want to see him re-sign. I think that's the best spot for him. And I'm a little worried. I don't think I'd be chasing him right now just because I think like pretty much anywhere he goes, if he walks, and I think he probably will walk because the Chargers would just as soon get it done cheaply with, you know, some of their younger guys, Palmer. It's kind of funny that it makes the most sense for him to go to Detroit since they've already had a big investment in a Mike Williams receiver bomb in 2005 when they spent like the 10th pick on him and he bombed out in Detroit after 2 years. So going after another Mike Williams is going to bring back some bad memories for people in Michigan. Yeah. But really like a re-signing in LA is like the only thing that would really preserve his value. Otherwise, I think he's going to lose something.
Yeah. I mean, this sounds depressing, but like, if you actually look at the numbers, like what's really the difference between Mike Williams and like Devontae Parker? Like they're almost the same age. They kind of play the same role. Devontae Parker actually earns more targets. Like, and Devontae Parker can be had for like, I don't know, like a Twix bar, probably, you know?
Heath bar. Heath.
Right. So I think Mike Williams is just
so good.
Kind of fancy. Ball is Life wants me to preach about MT.
No, we're not doing that right now.
I always love to preach about Michael Thomas.
All right, so we do have Christian Kirk, which we got to talk about real quick, just because it segments into the next the next part. Christian Kirk is, you know, kind of lower on the tiers overall.
I like Kirk more than like 80% of the guys we've talked about, by the way.
Okay, why do you like Kirk so much? And does he resign with Arizona?
I have no idea if he signs with Arizona. I do think that they will re-sign at least one and maybe two of him or Zach Ertz or the rotting corpse of AJ Green. Just because, frankly, you know, they should. I like Kirk, though. He had a really strong start to his career. You know, he had over 20% target share his first year, 24% target share his second year. And then he comes in this year. You know, they've miscast him, I think, in Arizona as this deep threat, especially 2 years ago. It was like pretty gross, the role they put him in. And this year he got to play in the slot more. He was just crushing PFF grades. He had a higher target share this year. He started to play a little better. And his, you know, if you look at some of the target earning stats, yards per route run stats, etc., the more route runners a team has, it's pretty sensitive to that. So Arizona constantly has 5 players out in routes on every snap. And so Kirk's numbers, I think, actually undersell his target earning ability. He's still pretty young. He profiled as a fantastic prospect. And through 2 years, I think he was tracking to be. I'm interested in Kirk wherever he ends up, honestly. I think he's underpriced. I think he's undervalued, and I like Christian Kirk. In Arizona, the ceiling isn't awesome, but Hopkins is old. He's now hurt. Like, what if Hopkins just crashes into dust? I'm not projecting it, but it's totally possible.
No, that's why Rondale Moore is probably, he's definitely better than Rashad Bateman, for sure.
But Rondale Moore is actually, I was going to say he's a running back, but he's actually too small to play running back. I think Rondale Moore is actually a ball boy, right? So Christian Kirk potentially all of a sudden could wind up in a lot of targets. I'm buying Kirk.
All right, so let's go ahead. Do either one of you guys have any input on Christian Kirk? Let's go ahead and move on to this next segment because, these are guys like that. I feel like they either should stay or they should go. And I want to keep it short for the most part. We don't have to go into in-depth analysis that we had before because, these are guys that are on the back end of your rosters in Dynasty anyways. So, Juju Smith-Schuster probably made one of the biggest errors of any professional wide receiver.
Just a horrendous decision.
$8 million on a 1-year prove-it deal just because I believe it was fully guaranteed. And he's like, oh, I can make more money the year after that. But really, the Chiefs were offering a multi-year deal where it was $10 million plus. The majority of the wide receivers at that time in last year's free agency were getting, $13 million if they were being brought on as a starter. So these are players who might be able to, seize a little bit of money, but might make the wrong or right decision to stick with their team. So we're going to start with Russell Gage. Should Russell Gage resign with Atlanta, or should he move on to a different team? Maybe, I don't know, maybe he could get some cheaper money or some more money possibly from Tampa Bay, who wants to downgrade from Chris Godwin.
You're Russell Gage. You take the most money you can get because you are just slightly above average. So you take whoever is offering you the most money. I don't care if it's the NFL or the CFL or the USFL or the XFL. Whichever one of them is offering you the most money, take it and go.
I understand that vacated targets supposedly aren't a thing, but Peter Howard isn't on this show, and so Russell Gage got a lot of vacated targets. I don't know. You can't convince me he's good. You can't do it. You cannot do it. You cannot. I refuse.
Pat, did he earn those targets or were they vacated?
Yeah, I tend to be on Jacob's side on this one. So I kind of think he should stay just because I think Ridley's going to go. And, they could bring in 1 or 2 more guys in Atlanta, but I still think Gage would be in the top 3 at receiver there and playing a lot of snaps. So probably best for his numbers if he sticks around.
All right, let's go to Traequan Smith. And by the way, we're still talking about we're still talking about Dynasty, by the way. So it's not just about the player. It's about, the
he should retire.
Which you want to happen.
I want him to retire.
Oh my God, Shane. Okay, so Traequan Smith could end up being the lead receiver possibly for the Saints. Who knows if it was, the health issues of him staying, Jameis Winston.
I think it's his talent issues.
Hurt.
I think he has an issue with talent. And
I thought you would actually be on Traequan Smith.
It. Why would I be on Traequan Smith?
Hyper athletic player who
I don't care about athleticism at wide receiver. I care about if you earn targets. And
especially when he's heading into year 4 and his career high is 8 points a game. I
think he's heading into year 5, Shane.
Is he?
Honestly, I view him as Michael Gallup.
Year 5, I'm sorry.
Michael Gallup 2.0, just in a worse offense with the quarterback who never threw down the field.
Michael Gallup Michael Gallup was a fantastic prospect. He was actually a hyper producer at Colorado State. And then in his second year, he was the wide receiver 17 in points per game. Traequan Smith, Michael Gallup wipes his fucking ass with Traequan Smith.
Yeah, Traequan Smith is really bad. But he should leave New Orleans again because I'll take a narrative bump. And also, I don't know who their quarterback's going to be.
This waste man's has played. He's played almost a full-time role now for the better part of 4 seasons in New Orleans after getting day 2 capital, getting every opportunity. And in his first year, on 253 routes, he had a 11% target share. Next year, he had a 7% target share and 10% per route. That's rancid. And then in 2020, he had a 11% target share in a full-time role, 13% per route. And this year, he set a new career high with a 15% target share. He sucks. I'm sorry. So
honestly, I don't know that if they were dealing with, Drew Brees, if Gallup would have had, a different target share percentage, because they're literally running the same exact routes on almost every single play. But Pat, what do you see with Traequan Smith? Is he somebody that you want to see somewhere else? Like, you don't care at this point. You're done with them. How you feeling about Traequan Smith?
I understand your point that Breeze was not the best quarterback to pair with Traequan at a young age, and just wasn't going to like make the best out of what he does well, or in theory does well. But yeah, I mean, I think if it was going to happen, it would have happened now. We would have seen signs at least.
All right, Zay Jones, who had a somewhat of a breakout to an extent, pretty much had the Nelson Aguilar breakout of where we saw a bump in value from Nelson Aguilar, and then Nelson Aguilar goes elsewhere. He gets overdrafted. Is Zay Jones going to go somewhere else, get overdrafted the same way that Nelson Aguilar did, or could we actually see some sort of production as Zay Jones if he went somewhere else? What would you want if you had him on your dynasty?
He's not going to get overdrafted, because I'm not sure he's going to get drafted.
Hey, every dynasty roster needs a 30th man. Zay's that guy.
Okay, I'll put it this way, guys. Would you rather have the 6th pick of the 4th round in a rookie draft, or Zay Jones?
The pick, because the pick is fungible, and I can kick it down the road for infinity. Like every year, I'll just flip it for a 4th in the next year. Like, you know what I mean? That way, it's never the wrong pick. Because if it's ever Zay Jones, it's the wrong pick. Roster spots are more valuable than players like Zay Jones and Traequan Smith. He's frozen.
That levitation thing where he gets off the ground is pretty cool.
It is freaky. I've watched that thing so many times and I still don't understand it.
No, neither can I. The physics of it just don't make sense.
So when he actually did see a significant target or a significant snap share, he did produce. He had 3 of his last 5 finishes, I believe, were wide receiver 2 or better. I think 2 of them were wide receiver 1s. Are you buying
Treadwell on the same premise?
Back end option, I might, but I want him to stay with the Raiders, of course, as long as Derek Carr stays with
the Raiders don't, because not to be crass, but his teammate had to kill someone before he ever even became like an option on the field.
He was a hero up against the Ravens in like week 1 or 2. I'm just saying. Yep. All right, Juwan Jennings.
Can I tell you, I actually have a free agent wide receiver from the Saints who I actually am buying. It's not Traequan Smith. It's Deontay Hardy, formerly Deontay Harris. Deontay Hardy was in the top 7 of the NFL in yards per route run this year, and he had a PFF grade over 87. That's a guy I actually want.
Is that dude like comparable to Tutu Atwell? All right, so Juwan Jennings over there for the 49ers. He's made a little bit of a dent for himself, and honestly, I feel like if he sticks with the 49ers, they could utilize him in the red zone more. Is he somebody that you might want to buy into if he sticks around with the 49ers? Would you try and get him with another team, or are you guys just done with him?
Too many big dogs in that passing game. And then, Trey Lance getting broken into. For his sake, he should probably go somewhere else.
And he's only 24 years old, by the way.
Yeah, I want the roster spot. I'll take the roster spot.
I love Juwan Jennings because I root for the Tennessee Volunteers, and he had an epic Hail Mary reception against Georgia that was probably one of my favorite college football watching moments of my life. So all the power to him. That being said, he's just Tim Patrick West to me. Like, he's just good enough that he takes targets away from Ayuk and Kittle and Debo, and it's kind of annoying. But he's not doing it for himself right now. And he's the 4th best pass catcher in an offense that doesn't throw. So it's pretty tough to make a case while he's in San Fran.
That's a very good point. All right, Jakob Myers. He could be a free agent possibly. This guy is the sweetheart of Twitter over there, but the guy that could never score a touchdown up until this past year. Should he stay with New England, who doesn't utilize him in the red zone near enough, or should he go somewhere else? And, if he goes somewhere else, does his value increase, or do you think it stays at the highest point with New England?
New England. He's got to stay with New England.
Maybe a better quarterback could, will him some big plays, get him some, because there's just nothing going on with, every catch is 10 yards and no touchdowns, and, seems like he never has gains of over 20 yards. You know,
I feel
maybe
like
if
Philly
he
could be
gets
a good fit.
Yeah.
No, we don't. It doesn't matter.
No,
He's-
I want
he's at his ceiling.
Jacoby. No, I want Jacoby to go elsewhere. I think Jacoby's legit really good. And I think that New England, his role's fine, but his role is kind of capped out just because of the way that offense functions. And so to me, I would rather just risk it. I think he's safest in New England, but what he is doing is not that fantasy valuable. I'd rather him go somewhere else. And then we actually find out, okay, maybe he's just a vacated target superstar, whatever, or he's legit good, but his ceiling goes up somewhere else. I mean, I have Jacoby Myers ahead of Juju Smith-Schuster in my dynasty rankings, and I want to apologize for that.
Whoa.
I think Jacoby's
Pat,
legit.
Pat,
Jacoby has
first off-
2 straight
first
years.
off, is Jacoby Myers good, Pat? And second off,
2 straight
do you have
years
him
over
anywhere
25% targets per route run. Guy's good.
Pat, is he good? Do you have him anywhere remotely close to Juju Smith-Schuster?
no.
Nor should you.
I think that's a double no. Like I don't know. I won't say Jacoby Myers is bad, but I think we just haven't seen any playmaking capacity there, like at all. And we've had time to see it now.
We
So,
see
like,
target earning.
He's fine.
We bet on volume and we hope for efficiency. And this isn't even just a shot at Juju because I have Juju ranked in like the same spot as ADP. This is just solely like how high I am on Myers versus consensus. Like I have Myers in my top 40 in Dynasty. Like I love Jacoby Myers. I think he's legit, like really, really good. And I want to see him in a spot where he can, because he's a target earner, and he's a target earner, I don't think, with nobody around. Like this year, he earned a career high target share next to Aguilar, who's not awful. Like he's not good, but he's an NFL wide receiver. Hunter Henry, who's a really nice tight end. I mean, like he was continually the focal point of the offense. Yeah, I mean, if you guys want someone like a Juju or someone like that to go to Kansas City, why can't Jacoby Myers go to Kansas City and be their underneath presence? Like he'd be great there in that role.
Actually, not bad, and it's a way cheaper option, most likely for somewhat similar production. So let's go ahead and go into the sophomore breakouts because we are running out of time. I don't want to talk about Jamar Chase and Waddle because obviously those two are the most elite guys in this category, and Jacob's grinding his teeth because I know he wants to throw in Devonta Smith in there as well. But Devonta Smith, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Elijah Moore, they were somewhat similar in their production, right, in their fantasy points. So with those three, if we had to rank those three moving forward in Dynasty, I'm going to start it with Shane on this one. Where do you have them? Devonta Smith, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Elijah Moore.
Amon St. Brown is clearly third. We've talked about earning targets, but there's also when there's literally no one else on the field and the ball has to go to someone and you happen to be there. So Amon, sorry, Sun God, you are third. It's hard because I'm an Eagles fan, right? So I'm always going to have that bias where I'm going to go, well, Devonta at least played a full season, and I saw him do it over a full season. Where Elijah Moore, he looked spectacular for 4 games. But man, they're both tied to quarterbacks that I'm questioning. They're very close. I mean, I honestly, I don't even know that I could pick between them. I guess I lean Elijah because the community's in on him more, and I can flip him probably for Devonta in like a third, which will make me feel good.
Pat, do you really think the community is more in on Elijah Moore? Or, where do you have him ranked? Where do you think the community's ranked? And, what's your take on that? Is Amon-Ra St. Brown just, trash to this point because there's nobody else to throw to?
No, well, so I totally agree with Shane. First of all, like that's how I have him. I have more just like a smidge higher than Devonta Smith, and no confidence in that call whatsoever. And then Amon-Ra kind of at a more distant third. Like I think a lot of people are going to be in on Amon-Ra, and I do think he's going to be kind of a trap. Like now with DeAndre Smith and Hawkinson coming back, it's just the law of the jungle. And
don't forget about Quintez Cephas.
And I went to Wisconsin, Chase, so I'm never forgetting about Quintez Cephas.
I like him. I think he's a
good.
Player.
He can beat press coverage, and like you're always going to have a job in the NFL if you can just like shrug off press coverage the way Cephas can. So I like him, but yeah, I mean the target thing is just going to be a problem for Amon-Ra next year. But like his price is kind of spiked right now. I think it's a good selling time for him. And
Jared Goff just gets so motivated because Matt Stafford won with the Rams.
Well, I think
he has to be better.
If we're buying Amon-Ra, I think we're hoping that he has a better quarterback than Jared Goff in the near future.
Yeah, and even if he does, we're assuming that T.J. Hawkinson, DeAndre Swift are not going to be injured.
I'm so
for half the
unconcerned
season.
about T.J. Hawkinson. Like he had every opportunity in the world to step up this year, and he was just remarkably mediocre. Like I'm more in on Amon-Ra, I think, than Pat and Shane are. He's still third for me, but I'm totally fine with Amon-Ra cost. Like I think that he legit played really, really well. He had a PFF grade up over 80. If you look at
Would you give up a 2023 first for Amon-Ra?
23? No, I would give up a 2023 for nothing. I wouldn't give up a 2023 for a date with Kim Kardashian.
Pat, would you give up a 2023 for a date with Kim Kardashian?
Yeah, I love that class too. I'm with Jacob on that. I'd give up a 2022 first before 2023.
Yeah, I'll put it this way with Amon-Ra. So I'm actually I'm pretty high on him. Well, I don't know about high. I'm at least with consensus. So I have Amon-Ra St. Brown ranked ahead of Pittman. I have him ranked ahead of Ayuk. I have him ranked ahead of Chris Godwin, who I just talked about being really low on. I'm pro Amon-Ra. However, I have both Elijah and Smith ranked higher. I have them in a different tier, mostly just because of draft capital, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown was a hey, balls life. I'm going to be the guy that does not have Elijah first, so screw you.
That's because you're obsessed with Smith.
Yeah, I have St. Brown ranked highly, but to me he's in a different tier. He was a 4th round pick. I think he's legit good. I think he's going to be in the NFL for a very long time. I think he's going to be a good player for a long time. I don't think that what happened was totally by coincidence. You don't put up 80 PFF grades as a rookie just by coincidence. It doesn't happen. However, I think the other two we had stronger priors about. They were better prospects, they were drafted higher, and they also performed really well. And so to me, I think similarly to the other two, I think Elijah and Smith are basically a coin flip. I love both. I have them ranked back to back. I just land slightly on the other side of the coin flip with Smith. I think that his year was a lot more impressive than it looks because of how little the Eagles threw the ball. But I mean, he was still posting up over 20% target shares, and he was doing it on a ludicrous ADOT. And we know that he can win at all levels of the field. We saw it in college. This is not some situational deep threat player. He can win everywhere. I think as they're able to bring in deep threats that actually function, because Quez Watkins is okay and Jalen Reagor is an abomination to the sport of football. I think that they will be able to rely on other more competent players for that explosive role, and they can use Smith more creatively at all aspects of the field. So I think Smith is fantastic, and I think Moore is fantastic too. I love both those guys.
Have you guys ever seen a rookie rise, or I should say a sophomore receiver rise as fast as Joshua Palmer has risen, especially being, a late round pick?
Cody Lattimore.
Miss me with that shit.
Dude, I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. And if one of you guys actually support it, please let me know, because it doesn't make any sense to me how this guy who was selected a late round pick who didn't produce in college. I'm sorry, he was 3rd round, but still a mid round pick who didn't produce in college. I'll
explain it to you with 2 words. Justin Herbert.
He's wide receiver 55.
I'm out on Palmer. I understand why he's getting hyped because everyone thinks Mike Williams is going to leave, and then we're doing the vacated target game where it's Josh Palmer gets to be the number 2 for Justin Herbert. It's just never that simple. First of all, they might re-sign Mike Williams. Second of all, if Mike Williams leaves, they might sign somebody else who's not Josh Palmer to be their number 2. Or third of all, he might actually be their plan at number 2, and then he might just totally suck because we don't really have any evidence that he's actually
Guyton
good.
Is their number 2. Okay, he runs the most routes.
But Guyton's different. Guyton is just a wind sprinter.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I know he runs the most routes. But yeah. Shane, you brought up the fact that he's at wide receiver 55, but I can promise you best ball is going to have an effect on that, although it's 2 different worlds. Best ball right now, he's being taken up there. God, what round did I see him in? It was absolutely insane. But it's going to have an effect on
going to the 11th in best ball right now. It's pretty wild.
Part of what you're trying to do in best ball though is differentiate your roster from other people's, right? You're trying to, and I don't play best ball. You're trying to hit on some guy that probably isn't going to hit like a Josh Palmer because he's a garbage can.
It's ADP, man. It's going to end up pulling it up because people are going to talk about it. It's going to carry over.
I can't see it. The dynasty community is a lot smarter than people
I think he is going to rise in dynasty because all these people that are the dynasty Twitter trendy people everyone's like, my under the radar sleeper for 2022 is Josh Palmer. And it's like in a few weeks from now, like, he's not going to be under the radar anymore. He's going to be.
We'll see. Let's see if we can write this down and reference back to it and see if we can see what the ADP is.
I can't see it getting higher than 40, and even then that would be too much for me. But if it goes higher than that, I don't know. I'll level egg.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Like he would definitely be beating the odds if he turned out to be good with like really average athleticism and like horrendous college production, not even a 500-yard season. Although, sorry, Jacob, but the Tennessee passing game was trash when he was there. It was
trash, but Marquez Callaway was better than Josh Palmer on this team.
Yeah. So, I mean, it does seem like a thing where kind of people are chasing the target picture and the fact that he's tied to a good quarterback.
All right,
in general, it annoys me that people just keep placing like these scrubs and they're like, well, there's targets, so this scrub is just going to take them all and he's going to be good. Like, dude, how many times do we
annoys you? It's awesome. Could you imagine if you're able to sell Josh Palmer for like an early second round pick on draft day? That's a gift. That's a gift, sir.
That's a 4th round pick that you took last year that all of a sudden you can move for.
How many times does someone have to punch you in the dick before you realize you're about to get punched in the dick and you just cover your balls? Like, just eventually we have to learn, right? Like, eventually.
You said that while Pat was taking a sip, okay?
I know, it almost got ugly.
Chase,
there.
Can you name this episode Josh Palmer Dick Punch? How's that for your YouTube algorithms?
Dick Punch actually does very well on YouTube, but
it probably does. Pat Fitzmaurice Dick Punch. All right, so Will Collins. I'm sorry, I said Will Collins. Nico Collins. Will he command more targets or is he full score?
No, because he ran all the routes this year and he didn't command any targets. So, I mean, sure, he might command some more targets next year, but he's probably not going to command enough to matter.
He's on an unholy level of targets.
Okay, Brandon Cooks isn't commanding 50% of targets. You know who's played a lot of time around Brandon Cooks in their career? Cooper Kupp. He earned targets. Robert Woods earned targets next to Brandon Cook. Michael Thomas earned targets next to Brandon Cooks. Willie Snead earned targets next to Brandon Cooks. You have Collins, you ain't it.
You have like 7-minute naps, right? Like you have these dietary plans. You have like certain plans, right, for everything. And Davis Mills was on a plan. It was called the one read plan, where he literally just he acted like he was looking at other players, but he was on one read, and that was Brandon Cooks, and that's how the play calling was designed. That's how they operated.
Sucks. Like, it's that simple.
Dude, he was only drafted like a round later than Josh Palmer, and Josh Palmer is
okay, sure. I'm fine. Look, if you want to put Nico Collins over Josh Palmer, I don't care. That's fine by me.
David, put David's comment up there. David Sheehan's got
David is right. Comment. David has the best comment.
That answers your question about all these scrub wide receivers.
The answer to these scrub wide receiver questions is to roster injury away running backs instead. David Sheehan, you've never been more correct.
Like, let's keep it simple. If a wide receiver doesn't hit in his first year, he's likely not going to hit. If he hasn't hit in his first year and his second year, he's definitely not going to hit. Nico Collins is a trash can. Josh Palmer's a trash can.
Bateman didn't hit. So, I mean, is Bateman going to hit in his sophomore year?
Okay, excuse me. Okay. Bateman actually – Bateman's we'll see what happens with his ADP and how far it falls, if it falls. And if Marquise Brown retires, his ADP won't fall and it'll rise. But it might rise anyway. His ADP is probably not going to drop much. And
this is a Jacob trigger. Jacob's about to rant for.
We haven't done.
No, I'm not even like. Look, I like Bateman, and I loved him as a prospect. I would say I no longer love him the way I did as a prospect because his first year was kind of underwhelming. But no, I would take Bateman like way ahead of these jamokes that we're talking about. But I put him in the same tier as Amon-Ra St. Brown. I have him just one slot behind Amon-Ra.
Pat, where do you have Bateman? Is he?
I mean, that sounds about right. Like I'm still pretty bullish on him. I'm up here in Big Ten country and saw him a lot at Minnesota, and just like I don't think he has any real flaws in his game. Like there's nothing that's a problem. He can win in a lot of ways. He can play inside or outside. Good route runner. Good after the catch. He just played with 2 and 3 quarterbacks in a lot of games last year, so I'm kind of giving him a pass for not hitting. And I'm still buying, but like Jacob's assessment of in that St. Brown tier sounds about right to me.
Like I have a line, and for the record, like I made this comment over Goblin. I think that was probably more hot takey. I have these like tiered and clustered rankings, right? So it's just I have all like so I'll have in that tier I have all the young guys in one cluster, and I have like the older guys in another cluster, and sort of like take your pick. And I have a line of Amon-Ra, Ayuk, Pittman, Bateman, Claypool. Like they're to me kind of all in the same zone. And like if you want to make a case for whoever, I have Amon-Ra at the top of that tier. But if you want to make a case for Pittman or for Bateman or for Ayuk, like I really have no major preference there. Rondale Moore, Chase's boy, he's in the tier below that.
He's dead.
Let's go ahead and bring him up.
Dead.
Will Rondale Moore finally get integrated in offense? Because we brought up Christian Kirk earlier, and Christian Kirk is likely going to command at least $13 million on the free agent market. With all the free agents that Arizona has, it's not likely that Christian Kirk's going to get re-signed. And if he does, he's going to be the only offense player that will get re-signed over Connor, over Chase Edmonds, over Green, over Ertz, because they're not going to have money to re-sign all those other players, which means they're also going to bring in other rookies to take that place. So they'll likely let Christian Kirk walk. And Christian Kirk played in the slot a ton, but he also played as the deep slot receiver, as Jakob brought up earlier in the show. They, on multiple occasions, had 3, 4, 5 wide receivers on the field at one time. So, yes, although Rondale Moore was hurt for part of the year, and although he was used as a decoy, this is a system that he could get integrated into and see more deep targets because he is a better receiver than Christian Kirk is. Although he might be shorter in stature, he still has more explosiveness. So Rondale Moore is somebody that I really like moving forward. Yes, by far. And let's see, Pat, where are you standing on Rondale Moore? Is he dead to you?
No, not at all. I'm with you, Chase. And I want to see Kirk leave for Rondale Moore's sake, maybe be more of a traditional slot receiver. And I watched this guy as an 18-year-old freshman just wreck Big Ten defenses, like good defenses, win the game against Ohio State single-handedly, wreck my Wisconsin Badgers. Dude was doing this stuff when he was 18. I just don't know if Kingsbury is the right guy to milk the best out of Rondale Moore. So that's kind of my issue.
I like Rondale. Chase thinks I hate Rondale because we had this trophy snack segment in which I had Bateman over Rondale, and he thinks that should actually be a debate. But no, I actually don't dislike Rondale. I really liked him as a prospect. Pat talked about that 18-year-old year. It was special. I mean, it's one of the best 18-year-old college seasons ever, frankly. And I like a lot of what he brings. I think his rookie year is interesting. I tend to like people with his profile, these guys that ran partial routes, they earned a lot of targets on their routes, etc. My issue with is just maybe I'm burnt from Visca last year, but I guess I have an easier time buying into a similar profile with Kadarius Toney, where he also didn't run a lot of routes this year because of injuries and because of other things going on, whatever. And he earned a lot of targets on his routes. And to me, I have an easier time sort of playing sample translation with him because when he actually played, he was running routes all over the field. He was running routes outside. He was winning outside. It seemed like he had more of a clear path to being an every down player next year. And to me, then the issue with his small sample stats is more variance. It's like, okay, well, if I get sampled, did he just run hot or is he actually good? I don't know. But to me, I kind of want to take that risk. With Rondale, it just seemed more intentional, right? It's like Hopkins goes out. Okay, there's now more routes available. Antoine Wesley's running all the routes. And so maybe in second year, they say, okay, whatever. His first year plan, he was going to be a gadget guy, and now we're going to expand it. And if they do, I'm very interested in it because I think he can play. However, my concern, and I'm doing a study right now on the translatability of rookie year targets per route run, but I do have a concern that his targets per route weren't necessarily as earned as much as they were schemed. And if you go into a game and you say we have 3 bubble screens for Rondale Moore today, well, he's running 40% of the routes, and among that sample of routes, he's getting his 3 bubble screens. If he now runs 100% of the routes, that doesn't mean he now gets 7 bubble screens. He's getting selected to play the routes for the touches he's schemed for. And so I don't know if he then plays full wide receiver. Is he still a target earner? Maybe he was in college. I just don't know yet. And so I'm scared a little bit with Rondale. So to me, I'm in some draft rooms where people are pretty pessimistic, and I'm willing to scoop him up because I do think he has a lot of upside. But at a similar cost to a Toney or someone, I'm way happier to take Toney. And I'm probably happier to take some of these veterans like a Cooks, Lockett, over Rondale Moore as well. But I have drafted him a couple times to start up, so I'm not out.
Great point, Shane. What you got for us?
You flame out in your rookie year. I don't want you. They don't want you anymore. I look, his college profile, he broke out when he was 17, well, 18, whatever. I mean, he everything coming into the NFL says he should have been a hit in year one. And he wasn't. And just like Jacob said, Hopkins was out and they decided, who we need to target? Antoine Wesley, not Moore.
But doesn't have to do with the scheme and what players
it doesn't. So here's the problem: you got people that did do this. They always make an excuse for why something happened. The fact that it happened is all that matters. It doesn't matter if a player has been injured; they missed a couple games. If the quarterback was me, and for half the games, and that's why, or their coach just misused them because their coach is stupid, or there was a COVID shortened offseason. If you're going to hit, most of the time you're gonna hit thresholds in your rookie season. You're gonna break at least 500 yards in a 16 game season. I don't know what it is in a 17. I can't extrapolate that. That math's too hard for me. Luckily for me, it doesn't matter because he ain't come close to it. He's dead to me. And the thing is the leagues I play with, he's dead to everyone else too. So there's literally I have to hold on to him. So I can be wrong because no one wants him. So he'll just sit on my roster, and if I'm wrong, fine. He'll prove me wrong. He'll be an outlier. But if I'm in a league with other people, like Pat still likes him, I'm going to go check to see if I happen to own him in our league and then try to reverse what I just said about him and be like, hey, Pat, second year, he could really break out. He's going to have some available targets. You really should get him now.
I'm going to make the sleeper app immediately after this show.
So, I mean, we'll hop on this last one. We'll try and keep it short because we're already 15 minutes over. But we have Kadarius Toney, and Jake brought up that Kadarius Toney is getting earn routes and whatnot. I mean, Kadarius Toney was also the first read. He was getting a ton of rub routes, run his way where the tight end would take the defender off. So although it's not a bubble screen, it was still a scripted route. So Kadarius Toney is now going into a new offense. Sterling Shepard towards Achilles at an older age. We have Darius Slayton, who isn't a great wide receiver, but I mean, Dable has found the way to get the most out of his quarterbacks and out of the wide receivers as well. I mean, is Kadarius Toney somebody that we might want to, take a bigger look at as somebody that we should be acquiring in 2022 in this offseason, especially when we get close to the draft and draft picks worth so much more?
What's your risk tolerance? I think that's the question.
Very high.
I think that if player like me, pretty high risk tolerance, wants to take big swings, wants to take big bets, you're going to like Toney because I think he gave us a lot to be excited about in a very, very small sample. The issue, of course, with small samples is that they're very unreliable. And, my issue with Toney from fully buying in is that my priors on him sucked because he was a pretty questionable college prospect. I love what I saw in the rookie year. To the extent that that I care about watching football, which I really don't, but to the extent that I watched him, I thought he looked good. To the extent that I care about the numbers, which is a lot, he checks a lot of boxes. The stats, the history of rookie wide receivers who post over 25% targets per route run, over 2 yards per route run, it's really, really good. The issue is that he is on the absolute precipice of a sample where you would even consider him meaningful because he spent so much time hurt and he spent so much time not playing all the routes. So I think there's a chance that Toney's a legitimately really good player and that we're sitting here this time next year and he's a top 15 dynasty wide receiver. I also think there's a chance that he's literally out of the league and pursuing a rap career. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that was Jacob distilled it pretty well, but we did see Toney look like a superstar for 2 games. And I mean, I guess what we worry about, it wasn't just one injury would have been fine, but it was 4 injuries keeping him out at various times down the stretch. It was a greatest hits in his first year. So yeah, that's kind of a concern, but I don't mind betting on the guy though, who did show us that 2 games of superstardom. Yeah, I mean, it's like Jacob said, it's definitely risk tolerance. If you're kind of a conservative button-up player, I don't think Toney's going to be your thing.
Yeah, and I'm somebody that loved Kadarius Toney coming out, but his injury does scare me, or his injury history does scare me. Shane.
Jacob, Pat, both of them said it great. Like, and yes, it was just 2 games, but god damn, were those fun. So, yeah.
All right, so if you had to rank these guys, we have Bateman, Collins, Moore, Toney, Palmer. Shane, we'll start out with you.
What was it? Bateman,
Collins,
and
Moore,
Collins,
Toney,
just Collins
Palmer.
out of there. Probably Bateman, Toney, Moore, and then I guess Collins, because I'm forced to rank him. But I just want you to know, I'm not ranking either of those guys, and neither of them. They're neither of them. Neither of them. They don't deserve to be ranked.
Bateman 1, Toney 2, Moore 3, and then if forced, I'll take Palmer over Collins, because I think that there's an easier path to hype that you can sell off of, which is if they actually do go into the season with him somehow as the number 2 wide receiver for Justin Herbert, you'll be able to sell him for something nice in August. And make sure you do, because I don't think it's going to end well if he actually starts playing games.
What if the Texans go in with Deshaun Watson actually playing, and all of a sudden you have Nico Collins as your number 2? That's a game changer. Pat, what you got?
I'll go Bateman, Toney, Moore, and then because the Chargers are at this moment, Chase, better than the Texans, I'm going to go with Palmer over Collins.
Oof. That's hot. All right.
Chase, you're not going to give. No, you got to give your ranks, because your ranks I know are spicy.
Mine's Moore, Toney, Bateman, Collins, Palmer. I don't have Collins above Bateman by any stretch. But yeah, there are some.
I got a feeling it's way too close, though, in your fucking brain.
It's pretty damn close. I don't have my rankings up, but it's pretty fucking close. I love the situation that
Moore at the top. Collins that's killing me. That is killing me. Moore at the top of that list.
I think that Ronda Morrison is going to be a stud. I think that he is actually going to be better than Toney moving forward. I think that he has the same abilities that Toney has. I think that he just needs to see the field, and he didn't see the field because Cliff Kingsbury is, and like Shane said, I'm making excuses.
Okay, and I agree with you. Here's the thing. I agree with you. I think Rondale Moore can play, and I do think Cliff Kingsbury is a total dolt that's more interested in how many Instagram models he can bank than scheming up touches for his offense. You know who Rondale Moore's coach is next year? The same dolt. It's the same dolt.
Yes, but without the same players. They're going to have Antoine. Is Antoine Wesley? Is he a free agent? No, he's a rookie.
The problem with Antoine Wesley is that he's a creative player, so he can leave or he can stay. It doesn't really matter. You're going to bring in another Antoine Wesley.
That's fine, and I'm cool with that. I just don't see them having very many other options on offense. And Chase Edmonds, who also took up slot snaps from Rondale Moore, is possibly gone as well. I actually have him leaving is what I am estimating happens over there for the Cardinals. So Ronda Moore should actually see a significant increase in snaps and opportunities and reads. And I feel like game scheme and game planning has a lot more to do with Ronda Moore than the average player. Very similar to when Toney came in, and Toney was the only wide receiver that they had. He became the focal point and the first read. So they started scripting him open. The difference was the Giants and Jason Garrett used motion in order to get open or get Toney open. And Cliff Kingsbury doesn't do that. So Rondale Moore has to win off the line of scrimmage, which he does not do on a regular basis. However, if they are forced to do that in the game script, then he's going to be open. He's going to find this opening. So let's go ahead and get out of here, because we've already wasted enough of Pat's time over here. I hope you had fun. But Pat, where can everybody find you? Of course, let everybody know, where to go to check out your podcast. What you got going?
I definitely had fun, Chase. Thanks to you and Shane and Jacob for having me on. They can find my written work at fantasypros.com. My podcast is Fitz on Fantasy once a week, usually out on Tuesdays, in most places where podcasts are found. And on Twitter, I'm at Fitz_FF.
Jacob, are you trying not to yawn right now?
I am trying not to yawn.
That was such a struggle.
I am trying. At 7:23, I'm still at the office. I hate my life right now. Anyway, you can find me on Twitter, FF_RTDB. I'm gonna it's my reading break coming up, which is great because I get a chance to do 2 things. One, I get to meet up with some buddies, go skiing in the mountains, and get real drunk. And number 2, I get a chance to do some fantasy football research. So I'll actually start writing again up on player profile.
A reading break?
Yeah, it's when you're at university, they have a reading week, which is where you get a week off to catch up on stuff. And our clinic, luckily, our legal clinic also closes. So I'll have to do a little bit of broad work on some files. But point is, I'll be writing again. You'll be able to find some stuff up on playerprofiler.com. I'm also partnering with Drew Ozenchuk, the DF bean counter, on his rookie guide. So we'll have that in the works. That'll be up for sale somewhere around the draft time. And you can always find me on the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast with Tom and with Billy. We have a special episode, Thursday episode tomorrow with Anthony Carenti, Dynasty Drive. So tune in for that one. And you can always find me on Twitter.
Shane, you always do the best reads out of anybody else. You have the best reads. And actually, Jacob and I were talking. We think
Trade alert. Dynasty Trades HQ once a week. Mannequin Show like once a month. Dynasty Trades in 5 on the YouTubes. It's not even close to in 5 minutes anymore. I'm really upset about that.
They're good. They're actually good shows.
But the whole pitch that got me to do the show was, dude, it's only 5 minutes out of your night every night. Like I'm like, yeah, I can't turn down 5 minutes. Next thing I know, it's turned into an hour. I don't know how that happened. But anywho, writing at DLF, writing at Fantasy Data, and I'm working on the DLF draft guide.
And the only thing I care about right now is building our YouTube audience. So that's all I'm going to talk about for like the next few months is building our YouTube audience, because Twitter sucks. And we decided to base all of our stuff off of the Twitter experience. And, it's all on YouTube. So go check it out, youtube.com/fantasy intervention. Make sure you guys go hit subscribe. Of course, big shout out to Fantasy Football Discussion over there on Facebook. You guys can find it over there. Just search Fantasy Football Discussion. We'll come right up. We have 28,000 members, and a bunch of y'all are watching right now. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in. If you guys have any questions for us, please do not hesitate to send it over there. Actually, put it in the show, like comment it in the show, and we'll bring it up next week. We're going to start a little mailbag for that as well. But the main thing is check us out over there at youtube.com/fantasy intervention. We appreciate you guys for listening. Thank you guys for letting us intervene with your fantasy football life. We're out.